we'll be going through 101 for parcels today and looking at a bit of what we can do with these. So just to start off with, what exactly is a parcel? So at its core, it's a digital representation of a real world lot. So if you've gone out, you're looking at a real world subdivision, it's going to be made up of a number of different lots. And this is going to be the digital representation of those lots. Now, within Civil 3D, a parcel can be represented by any closed boundary. So keep that in mind, it has to be closed for any of the parcel tools to recognize it as such. If you've only done, for instance, I realize you can't see my mouse here, everything but the Lawn Streets line work, you would find none of this works. So remember that when you're running through it. It is also very beneficial when needing to represent the lot information to a client or even stakeholders because they need a way of visualizing it. Out in the field, you would do this with things such as pegs, putting a stake in, things like that. On paper, you're going to be using things like your line work, the dimensions, the area, and all that fun stuff. So today we'll be looking at how exactly you'll be able to craft those and edit them as you need. Now, the Civil 3D parcel tools work in a number of unique ways. The first thing they allow you to do is you will actually assign each parcel to a site. Now, what this does is it allows Civil 3D to look at all of the parcels located within that site and make adaptations as it's working. So if you remove a line from your parcels, it automatically updates looking at all the rules we'll be setting up later on and goes, okay, you've made this one to be this area. I'm going to work with that. I'm going to adjust so that all of my other ones have the rest of the area thrown into there. It also automatically numbers and labels the boundaries. As you can see in this image, it's automatically labeled the lot L20, and then it's done the external boundaries with the degrees, well, degrees, minutes, seconds, and the distances. The actual tools themselves are very intuitive and easy to use. You can see the ribbon there. We'll be going through a number of those commands during this session. You will see exactly how they are used and what they can be, well, used to your benefit within your workflow. Speaking of, what is on the agenda for today? Well, first off, we will be looking at a real world job. Now, this job requires you to have in a court and then to subdivide the parcels. So the first thing we'll do is set up the road alignment, make sure that's all set up correctly. We will then be creating an initial parcel. From there, we'll be able to set the lot layout setouts that we will be using for the multi-lot creation before moving on to how we can edit the lots and then finally finalizing it by just checking over our labels, checking the final report, the site report, and then producing a table of all the areas and such. So we'll move on to an actual, where's my mouse? There it is. We'll move on to, there it goes, a quick demonstration. Well, not a quick, decently sized presentation. Now, Civil 3D alignments, do we have a webinar on that, JT? I'm actually unsure of that.
Yeah, we've got a few different webinars that are that include alignments and profiles and bits and pieces. I'll see if I can dig the one out we did. I think it was March last year, which was alignments and profile views, and I'll broadcast that one at the end. Nice.
So for this webinar, we've already got one made up here. This was made up just using some pre-created points that I've chosen to establish my alignment. If you want more information on how to actually create the alignment, you can go and watch that previous webinar. However, the command can be found up here. By dropping that down, you would select the alignment creation tools. And what you need to make sure of here is that you're remembering which name you're calling it. In this case, I have called this one L. You set it to be the center line of your curbing, of your road, because that is what's going to represent the middle of the road's court that we are making in here. We have to make sure the site is set to the exact same one that we are going to be using for the parcel. Now, the reasoning for this is because, as I said earlier, The site is what holds all of the information. This is what you're bundling all of it into. From there, you can set the alignment style. Again, make sure this is on center line, depending on what you're doing, obviously, but for what I am running here, I'm running a center line. And you can choose the label style to be whatever you wish. In this case, I'm using 10 and 20 meter representations for my distances, and that is what I'm running with. After which you would create the alignment and run through with that. Now we're going to move on to the actual parcel creation itself. So the first thing we want to do is actually establish what our larger parcel is going to be. So we are going to take this large parcel and subdivide it into smaller ones, while also creating a quart bowl in the middle here. So the first thing we are going to do is go over to the Parcel tab found here and drop this down. The 3 commands found here are the overall tools. Each of them opens up further commands to work with. And the 2 we are going to be running for this section of it is the create parcels from objects, which will allow us to create the parcel based on the block we have here. Sorry, not block, line we have here. And then right of way, which will allow us to turn this alignment into an actual road. First thing I'm going to do is go create parcel from objects and just select that overall line work. By clicking that, you'll see it all highlights and it's going, okay, are you sure this is what you want to turn into a parcel? And I'm just going to hit enter. That'll open up the create parcel from objects window. Now in here, you're able to choose which sites you want to use. In this case, I'm just using my base one, a string of break lines. This has already been set up prior, so I can just choose it. The parcel style, I'm just going to switch over to L. If you do want to mess around with this a bit, you'd hit the little box here, and that opened up the actual parcel style. In here, you're able to change various things like the information, the overall design of it. So if you wanted to fill in all of the parcels as they came in, you're able to set that. You're able to set the sections. We'll actually look at this later on in a different format. The actual display. So again, you can fill them in if need be and just look at how they're going to be brought up. And the overall summary of the block, which can be found in here. So I'm just going to be running the L style. This is preloaded into Civil 3D. I'm going to be working with that. You can set what layer you wish the parcels to be placed on. I'm using the lot layer. This is reading it in directly from Civil 3D, and the exact same with the parcel segment layer. The label styles themselves are the styling for any of the labels we're going to be bringing in. At the moment, if I ran this up, it would be giving me the area labeling. However, the line and curves would not be shown. So any of your segments, you would not get any bearings or distances on them. To change that, I'm simply going to hit the automatically add segment labels, and you'll see these are now no longer shaded. I'm able to click and use them as needed. All of this looks like what I want to be working with, so I'm just going to go okay. Erase existing entities. This is just going to remove the old polyline and replace it with a new parcel one. So I'm going to go okay. You'll see the line work is now changed. It's now a parcel. We've got all of our dimensions loaded in, and we've got something to work with. The middle area actually represents the entirety of the block. Any commands you want to run that interact with the block in any way, I recommend selecting the middle of it because that will allow you to highlight all of it and run with it. So just a little bit of a tip if you're trying to actually do any edits to this. Now, the next thing we are going to do is we're actually going to create this quart bowl in here. The way to do that is to drop down parcel again, but this time we're going to select create right of way. Now this looks through, it uses the parcel you've created and it's looking for any alignments that have been made within that parcel. So I'll run this up now. Now it's asking me to select the parcels. So in this case, I want to select the one that I've just made and hit enter. This has now gone, okay, I'm looking through all this. I've found an alignment. What do you want to do with it? We're able to create the road from here. So what do we want the offset from the alignment to be? What do we want the fillet radius to be based on the alignment? And then how do we want to clean it up? Now, we've got a set one for this. We've already created the actual court bowl itself. We'll be working with that later. What we are creating at the moment is just the initial road. You'll see in a bit that this is actually going to go into the court bowl that we've drawn up. We're actually going to do some edits to make that look a bit nicer later on.
Jack.
Yep.
Just before you progress on to that, obviously you've got a beautifully closed polyline there with no issues for the main parcel. Tim's just raised a question. At the point where you've created that parcel, how does it react to miscloses, I suppose, or if the polyline hasn't been properly?
So as I said at the start, if there's a I'll just cancel out of this quickly. If you tried to create a parcel and there was a misclose in it, it would just not run. You'd have to find out where the misclose is. It would just say not a closed polyline, cannot run. Does that answer the question?
Thank you. Yep, I believe so. Thank you very much.
Cool. I'll always go back into this. So right away, select the parcel I want to work with and press enter. Open this back up. Now I want to create an offset from the alignment of 7.5 meters, and I want to use a fillet radius at the parcel boundary intersection of 6. So what we'll see is this is going to, well, create the road for us. I'll run it up. We can see exactly how this is going to look. The reason I chose those values is because as a user of this, we've used this data set a fair bit. I know exactly how wide I want the actual court bowl to be. So I've been able to tailor the right of way to do exactly what I want. You'll see that this lines up quite nicely with the corners of my court bowl. Now, we've got a bit of an issue though, where it's done mostly what we want, but how do we apply this section to the actual alignment parcel that we've made? Now, the way we do that is we're actually going to turn this court bowl into its own parcel. So select the parcel again, parcel from objects, and then select this one here. This will bring back up the form. We'll choose exactly what we did earlier. So we'll set the parcel style to L, make sure the site is on the correct, well, the same site as what our regular parcel is. Automatically add segment labels, erase existing entities, get rid of the original line work, and go OK. So this is now joined up with the other parcel. You can see we've got a few errors, well, not errors, a bit of a kerfuddle in here that we want to get rid of. But yeah, for instance, for the basic purposes of this though, we have now created 1, 2, and then 3 parcels because we've got a line in here separating the 2 of them. Just quickly, we'll do some edits to clean this up. Just to show you how that works, this time we're actually going to open the Parcel Creation tools. Now this is where all of our edits lie and where we're able to subdivide the entirety of the lot further down the line. Now, the command we're going to use to clean this up is the delete sub-entity command. And this allows us to delete any line work that we have used to create a parcel, and it will automatically update the rest of it to represent these changes, as we will see. So I'm going to run this command and select the lines I want to remove. And see it's gone through, and now we have 2 separate parcels here. I'll just remove this last one. Now we've got 1 parcel here and 1 parcel here representing the road and representing the actual parcel. I can see we've got a few things in chat, JT. Does anyone have any questions on that?
No, not at the moment. No, it's all good.
Cool. Okay, I just saw a bunch in there.
No worries.
All right then. So now what we want to do is that when we've crafted this parcel, we've got a bit of a battle axe situation going on here. If we told the software to create a bunch of, to subdivide all this based on what we've got at the moment, we would get some really odd odd lots forming between this section here. So what we actually want to do is we want to section this into 2 separate parcels. Normally, you'd have to create the line work, readjust it, do all this again. It's a whole messy process. The parcel lot layout tools actually offers a really nice solution. We can just make a line. So we've got the add fixed line to points command here. I'm simply going to select that. It'll bring back up the create parcels layout tool again. Make sure you're running the exact same parcel style. I do want to create the line work because this will be used for the parcels later on. And now it's simply selecting which points I want to use. So I want to turn this into more of a rectangle-like block. So I'm just going to select this point here. Since I have perimeter, do perpendicular to make that straight. And you'll see I now have another lot here and another lot here. So it's split it into automatically through the use of the site that we've assigned it to. It's recognized that these are under the same site. It's being split by a closed polyline. I'm going to turn this into 2 separate parcels. It's a really nice tool for automatically getting all that done. So next up, we're going to get into some of the really cool stuff. We're actually going to subdivide both of these blocks. And it's going to be simple as clicking a few buttons and making sure you know exactly what you're setting for the settings. So we'll move on to the parcel settings now. These are actually found here. If you find that this part of the menu isn't showing up, it's probably because you haven't hit this little toolbar icon here. This allows you to condense toolbar. It just means that you can't see the parameter settings. If you're running this normally, I'd recommend setting these to whatever you wish them to be and only opening when need be, because they are quite messy to have out. If you have it condensed, it's quite easy to work with. Now, we'll be running up this parcel in here. We'll say, go through all this quickly. The minimum area is the minimum size of the parcel you want it to create. In this case, I want to create a minimum area parcel of 500 square meters. If I ran this and told it to create the parcels based on this, it will do its best to try and find a solution, holding all of this information and keeping the minimum area to 500 square meters. The minimum frontage is how far back from the alignment you want it to be, not the alignment, the edge of the road you want it to be, how wide it's going to be and such. The minimum width is how wide you want it to be at a minimum. In this case, it's set to 10 meters. Minimum depth is how far into the property you want it to be. So if we use the Lawn Street as an example, the frontage would be how far across the road you want it to be going into the back of the lot. The minimum width is how wide at a minimum it's going to be. Minimum depth is how far back it's going to be. Maximum depth means it's not going to go past that, and you'll be able to subdivide. You could have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 situation going on, if everyone understands that. And yeah, it's all about manipulating these rules so that the software knows how to calculate them. If it can't find a solution, you'll actually get a warning saying that the software is unable to find a solution. Please check your parameters. So for now, we'll just have a look at how this is actually operating. We'll go with a minimum frontage. We'll work on this one. We'll go about 15 meters. And we'll actually get a really nice presentation. It'll actually show us how it's going to look before we commit to it. So I'm just changing these so they're going to work a bit better. This is a fairly, if I made these too big, it would look all clunky. So I'll make them fairly small. And we're going to use this command here. Keep in mind, if you run any of these commands at the moment, they will do their best to hinder to these settings in here. So just keep that in mind when you set these. This is the overall rule set you're wanting the parcel tools to follow. I'm going to select this and it's saying, what parcel do you wish to subdivide? So we've got 3 we could do at the moment. We don't want to work with the road. The roads, we're happy with it as it is. We don't want to touch that. So we want to use either 100 or 104. I'm going to choose 104. And now it's saying, what do you want the frontage to be? Now I want it to run across the road here. I want it to work with that. But if I so wished, I could have the parcels facing outward and going all around this way. So I'm going to select this point here. It's gone the wrong way. There it goes. A little bit fiddly to get the handle on the first time, but this is what I want the front of the parcels to be facing. I've ticked it on. It's saying, okay, we're going this way. Are you sure this is what you want to do? I'm going to go yes. So just hit enter again. And it's giving me an example of how these parcels are going to look. Now that looks good to me. That all looks exactly how I want it to be. But if I wanted to change it, I could come in here and go, okay, yeah, I want the frontage to actually be about 20. And it automatically updates to show you what they're going to look like. So you can just keep playing with this as you go. So I want the frontage to be 7 instead. Makes it a little bit wider to work with. I want the actual frontage to be 10 meters instead. It's going to split them up further.
Jack, just to give us a bit more of an idea of what's happening, could we close the properties window just on the right hand side, just because everything's a bit squashed?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It might give us an opportunity to zoom in and see a bit better. Sorry about that.
Yep, seems to have cancelled out my command, but we can just run that up again. So yeah, I'm just choosing the frontage again. That's what I want. I'm going to hit enter, and it automatically loads in the preview of the parcels. So once you're happy with it, it goes, you want to accept the result. It's automatically titled in yes. I'm just going to hit enter again, and those parcels have been made quick as you like. If you do need to do any edits, just cancel out of that. If I do want to do any edits, like this block here, triangular, it's not quite what we want. Instead, want to turn it into a super lot. I can just delete that line work, and now that's all one lot. Yeah. Now, you might have seen when I did that, any sharp-eyed viewers might have seen that when I ran up this command here, it actually asked for what angle did I want to work on. Now, the reason for that is it's going to use whatever the frontage is at that current time. But we can actually say, okay, we want it to work at a 90-degree angle from that to set all this up. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'll run this up again. This time I'm going to select the lawn street, and we're going to go from this point here up to this corner because we want it to follow the road. Now, if we made blocks here at the moment, it would kind of have them on the diagonal just due to how the frontage is working at the moment. It wouldn't look very pleasant. So what we actually want to do is we want to specify an angle for it to work on. In this case, 90 degrees. So it's going to shift us so that it's going to be working at 90-degree intervals from here and applying our settings. So I'm going to hit enter. It's going to create them, and you see how they're nice section blocks. I might change that to 15 to make that a little bit cleaner, that end one. Five keys not working for some reason. Make that all a bit nicer.
Jack, would it be possible just to zoom in and explain what's going on with the colouring around the lots? Because at the moment it's all sort of from a distance. It's difficult to see what the colouring is representing.
Yep. So the red one, the red outline bolded lines are actually our parcels. They're showing what the parcels are actually look like. The blue is showing the depth and the width based on what we inputted over here. And yeah, that's basically how it's working. The yellow is showing where exactly we've chosen to be the front of the lot, if you can just see it in there.
Thank you.
You will notice that all these parcels are trying to be as even as possible, so it's evenly spreading out the remainder of the area across all of these lots. if you so wish, you can actually set the remainder distribution, English, to place the remainder of that area in the last parcel, making it as close to your settings as possible, while dumping all of that excess area into the last parcel. Now it's going to use the direction that we've set for the frontage. So you can see that this last parcel now has basically doubled in size. If I switch this back to redistribute, it's split it all again, place remainder in last parcel, it's extended that out and made it just a larger parcel. So I'll hit enter, and they've all been created now. So most of this time I've been talking about the sites that you can use, well, the sites that all this is being applied to. And that's found under the prospect in Toolspace under Prospector. And it actually has its own drop down of sites. Now under sites, you will find the various ones you've made. In this case, I made a string of break lines one. Any alignments you have assigned to that site, in which case the first one that we had in here was set to string of break lines. And then you've got any parcels that you made. Now, if you actually open this up, and I find this to be really cool. Okay, this thing. There we go. We can actually view all the parcels that have been made. And if you need, you can do a bit more of an in-depth analysis of them, looking at what each segment is, seeing exactly where they're being located, the length, and getting the overall area of them. It's a really cool form if you just need that little bit of extra information from them and you're looking at all this going, this is a bit of a mess. What you can also do is we can actually create a table out of all these. So Civil 3D has you covered here. We can go to the Annotate tab. And under here, we have Add Tables. If you want to add any other labels to this, you can just drop down Add Labels, and you can add different various parcel labels to it. But for now, we're going to add a table. So we can drop down the parcel, and we can add a line table, a curve table. So we get all that curving in here. Any segment, so it would bring in all of the segment information, or the area. Area is most likely going to be the biggest one you guys are using. It's just going to show all of the areas we've picked up in the course of the survey. So the table style, I'm going to use the area square meters. You can customize these if you so wish. By going to data properties, you're able to set various what you actually want to pull out of these parcels. In this case, I am just pulling in the area information along with the lot information. So the lot number information. So I'm going to select which parcels I actually want to be using because there's no way to select a site within this menu. So by clicking the little green box here, we're able to select all of them. I've only got these parcels here, so I can just do a quick selection. It's found 28 of them to work with, and I want to go OK. Given a preview of how it's going to look, I'll just place it a bit out of the way here. And we've got all of our lots along with the area in square meters as I specified when I created the lot. And I can use that to produce the clients and say each of these lots are at these square meters. Yeah, have fun with that. So that's a really nice look at actually how you can work with parcels, create them really easy, subdivide them, use the alignments to create a road going through the middle of them and running through all that. The editing tools are able to be worked in really well. They can be used to delete the segments as needed. That's now a joint one. The parcel will actually have updated. If I do that to 115, we'll modify. So if I delete this one in here, that should now be about 1,000. consolidated 14. Switch to 1057. Automatically updated where it was. If I want to recreate those, I can go back in here and go back to the add fixed line. And that will allow us to update that and split it again. Automatically split into both, and it's created the parcels as well as can be. Because we've taken manual control, it's going to ignore these because we've taken the control away from it. It's updated the rest of them to work with these two lots that we have created ourselves, and it's working with that. If you need, you are also able to create a curving. So if you have a curved boundary, you are able to do that. So for things like lakes or rivers and such, these can be really handy if you've done one. It's on the edge of a lake, you can set the curving and have the lot created on the edge of that. So yeah, I will stop my screen at the moment and I will let you share the final slide, JT.
Well, before you do that, I thought a good opportunity to discuss renumbering, because obviously as you've gone through and made edits, we've now got, for example, in that top corner of Perth Street, lot number 131 obviously is not the number we want. So it's just a case of how we go about renumbering the lots and getting them set out in order if we have made edits such as this. Renumbering and rename, which is just on the modify panel. So if you do find yourself obviously with out of sequence numbers, etc., the important thing again is the site here, because if you've got multiple sites going on in your project, you've got to make sure you pick the right one, because you can actually run this tool, from what I remember, with the wrong site picked, and you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start renumbering my lots, and without realizing you do it and nothing happens. So it's important that you get the right site. So really here, all you're going to be doing is renumbering the start number, which could be number 1 if we wanted, and then the increment, i.e. what increment it uses to start the numbering. Then you click OK, and it should say down the bottom. I can't actually see, unfortunately, due to my screen
specify start point or
there you go,
polylines.
Specify start point. So probably the bottom left-hand lot, which is maybe 106. And then you're just going to draw your polyline through all of the lots until you get to, say, 118 and press enter. Or in fact, you could keep going. That's a very good point, actually. And then you go, there you go. You started at 1, you've ended at 13, logically, as we would have expected. So depending on, obviously, what your numbering system is, that's a really nice, neat, quick way of being able to just sort out your lot numbers, particularly when, as we know, things happen, like Jack just made an edit there. He removed the lot and added a lot back in. Manually reconfiguring all those numbers all over again is an absolute nightmare. So this is a really nice little tool, which doesn't appear on the other ribbon. It doesn't appear on the little contextual parcel ribbon that Jack has had up. It's only available when you select the parcel, and it works on this contextual ribbon. So yeah, just thought I'd flag that one up.
I will also just add to that is that it will automatically remember what starting, if you've used this command, it will automatically remember what starting number what the next number in that sequence was. You can manually edit that to be 100 now, but you can also set the increment value. So if you wanted it to be every second or such, you can. And when you've gone okay, you can make this as weird a shape as you want to try and avoid any that you don't want to be shown. So you see how it's gone 1, 2, 1 because of how I drew the line. So the way you draw the line is how it's going to renumber. And so just keep that in mind. So just to overall what we've done, step 1 would be to create your road alignment. Ensure you do any editing needed before creating your parcel. So make sure it's all exactly what you want it to be before going ahead with it. Step 2 would be the actual creation of the initial parcel. Make sure that you've set the site you wish to build everything upon, and then set the labeling styles you wish to use. Otherwise, you're going to have to come back and make all those edits again. Then you would start on the actual parcel layout, setting your minimum parcel area, frontage width and depth, setting your maximum parcel depth, and then afterwards applying any manual edits after running the subdivision tool. Lastly, you would finalize the drawing by fixing any of your labeling using the auto labeler command that we ran, doing any manual edits that you need, and then creating a parcel report from there. With that, I will hand off to JT for announcing next week.
Yeah, well, look, just before we do that, I guess this was intended to be a 101. So if you haven't used parcels before, really Jack has outlined the absolute basics of what you can do with the lots, which is perfect. So if you're just starting out, hopefully what you've seen today just gives you the opportunity to begin. And at least I would say, don't do any of it manually, or at least don't do a good proportion of it manually, which Jack and I have been in contact with customers that do a lot of this work entirely manually. And I've been in that position myself. You know, you're rejigging lots around, trying to achieve certain areas, then you're trying to annotate, and it's a lot of work with the drafting. So just getting to grips with some of the tools at a basic level will hopefully be a good time saver. And look, we may also run maybe an extended session at a later date if we get some good feedback. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, and we look forward to seeing as many of you as possible at the next session. Thank you very much.